vibeBooks presents The Eater of Souls by Henry Kuttner. Summary. The Eater of Souls is a haunting tale that blends science fiction, fantasy, and psychological horror, written by Henry Kuttner, a master of speculative fiction in the golden age of pulp. In this eerie and thought-provoking story, Kuttner explores the terrifying intersection of science and the supernatural, asking what happens when the human mind becomes both the battlefield and the prey. The story begins in a world where the boundaries of time and space no longer offer protection. A strange force, neither fully understood nor fully real, begins to consume the essence of human consciousness. Not just bodies, but souls. The central premise is chilling. An entity exists that does not kill in the traditional sense. It devours what makes a person who they are. It feeds on identity, memory, and humanity itself. Our protagonist, Dr. Harcourt, is a psychologist and scientist who begins to notice strange patterns in his patients. Lapses in memory, personality changes, and a sense of psychic violation that no diagnosis can explain. The deeper he investigates, the more he is drawn into a mystery that transcends logic. Something is reaching across dimensions. Something that cannot be measured by instruments or restrained by medicine. Something ancient, sentient, and hungry. As Harcourt follows the clues, he uncovers whispers of a presence that has stalked humankind for centuries, perhaps longer. It was known by many names in ancient times, hidden in folklore and religious fear, but always the same force. The Eater of Souls. And now, through some breach in the psyche or a rift in the fabric of reality, it has returned. Kuttner draws from both Lovecraftian cosmic horror and Freudian psychological insight to craft a narrative that's as philosophical as it is terrifying. The Eater of Souls is not a monster in the traditional sense. It is not claws and teeth, but a metaphysical parasite that erodes a person from the inside out. Harcourt soon realizes that traditional science is powerless. The enemy exists in thought, in emotion, in dream. The prose is spare but poetic, with a rhythm that builds dread like an oncoming storm. Kuttner uses minimal description, letting implication and atmosphere do most of the work. What isn't said is as powerful as what is. The horror in the story works on two levels. There is the external fear of an otherworldly presence, and there is the internal terror that we are not entirely in control of our own minds. That something might already be inside us. The climax is a slow burn, not an explosion. As Harcourt inches toward the truth, he finds that knowledge does not bring power. It brings despair. Because to understand the Eater is to risk attracting its attention. The final confrontation is more metaphysical than physical, a confrontation of minds and wills. And Harcourt, like so many tragic heroes in science fiction, must decide whether to save himself or risk everything to warn the world. What elevates this story beyond pulp horror is its introspective core. Kuttner forces us to question what a soul is. Is it memory? Is it emotion? Is it identity? And if it can be consumed, what is left behind? The Eater of Souls is as much about psychological disintegration as it is about supernatural predation. There is also a strong subtext of isolation in the story. Harcourt is alone, not just physically, but intellectually. No one believes him. He's watching people lose themselves to an invisible force, and society cannot acknowledge it. This sense of alienation mirrors the existential dread of the modern world, where people often feel disconnected from meaning and vulnerable to forces beyond their comprehension. Kuttner taps into that fear and amplifies it. Though written in the early 20th century, the story resonates today. It can be read as an allegory for mental illness, trauma, or even societal collapse. The Eater becomes a metaphor for depression, addiction, or ideological possession. It strips away not just reason, but will, turning people into husks of themselves. And yet, no one sees it. No one stops it. That is the real horror. Henry Kuttner was known for his ability to explore deep philosophical and emotional themes under the guise of genre fiction. In The Eater of Souls, he demonstrates this skill with subtlety and brilliance. He doesn't rely on gore or action. Instead, he lets unease accumulate like shadows at the edge of vision until the reader realizes, too late, that the darkness has already entered the room. The conclusion of the story is bleak but meaningful. Harcourt's fate is ambiguous, but the message is clear. Some truths are too large, too terrible to fully understand, and once we glimpse them, we are never the same. The soul, Kuttner implies, is a fragile thing. Beautiful, yes, but not invincible. In summary, The Eater of Souls is a short but powerful work of speculative fiction. It blends cosmic horror with psychological thriller, inviting readers to consider not just what we fear, but why we fear it. It speaks to the vulnerability of the mind and the dangers of curiosity. And like all great science fiction, it leaves us with questions that linger long after the final page. Henry Kuttner gives us more than a monster. He gives us a mirror, showing that the true horror may not be what waits in the darkness, but what we might become if we let go of what makes us human. Thank you for tuning in to vibeBooks. We hope you enjoyed this journey. Please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing to our channel. Check out our playlist or explore vibeBooks for more classic stories. Until next time, happy listening.